If you have a TikTok brain, you might as well just click off right now because you have bigger things to solve for. But if you're a real entrepreneur and you're going through seasons of correction, season of repositioning, or just a season of hardship in general, this is going to be exactly for you. There's a lot of people online that talk about how easy it is to make money and that really it's not that hard. And when it comes down to the core of things, yeah, like the concept is fairly simple, but it's never going to be easy. There's a growing number of gurus that like to convince people that it's just, any dumb person can do it. And yeah, to a degree, your intellect doesn't have to be super high to do this, but what people end up doing is they get into the space without ever expecting any element of hardship. They think that it's going to be easier than working a 9-to-5 job. It's going to be easier than working a part-time job. And I'm not putting down any of the other ways of making money, but everything has its own hardships. If you are elevating, you're gonna experience the pressure. When you're taking off on a plane, you're experiencing the pressure in your ears because you're raising in altitude. But if you were to go in a submarine, or even if you go diving, or you just swim in a pool and you dive to the bottom of the pool, you're gonna feel the pressure in your ears. Either or, you're experiencing the pressure. You just have to acknowledge and you have to accept, okay, which pressure do I actually want to experience? What kind of fruit do I want to experience off the back end of that pressure? Most people, at least if you're watching this video, you're gonna want to experience the fruit that comes from the pressure of increase, not the pressure of decrease. So this is why I want to cover in this video. It's gonna be super raw, super just unedited. And I'm just gonna talk about the 3 things to do during seasons of repositioning, or if you're just struggling as an entrepreneur. This isn't gonna be your usual run-of-the-mill basic bitch solutions as to what to do. This is going to be completely unique to what I've done in the past, to what I've recommended clients, what I recommended my friends to do, because this is the exact stuff that's actually going to pull you through and not just add any more. Because during these seasons, you're not going to get through them by adding more. It's going to come from taking away, from subtracting. So that's why point number 1 of what you want to do when you're actually struggling is to create space for silence, for solitude. You want to separate yourself from all the inputs that are in your world right now, which includes books, podcasts, videos. Like you thinking that you working over the weekend or watching videos or reading business books or, doing these little things that don't actually take up energy, but you actually enjoy, like I love reading business books. I love going on YouTube and just watching videos and just exchanging ideas with people about like marketing, business, operations, leadership. The thing is though, if you're always on, you're never off. And you cannot create clarity and space if you're always in chaos. If you feel like you're in chaos, it's probably because you're always plugged in. You're completely suffocating your intuition because instead of listening to what's inside, instead of listening to what your body needs and what your mind needs, you're constantly plugging yourself into other people through podcasts, through books, through coaching programs, through YouTube videos, does not matter what it is. You are seeking a solution from a source outside of yourself. And this is what causes you to be so scatterbrained. This is what causes you to feel lost and to feel hopeless because you're doing all these different things. You're theoretically doing what people are telling you to do, what you should be doing, but it's just not working because everything works. That's the thing. There's no one size fits all. There's no silver bullet. You just have to find what works for you. But the only way to do that is to pull yourself away from the chaos, from the inputs, and actually listen to yourself. This actually happened to me at the beginning of March. So now that we're stepping into Q2, it's gonna be super important because you want to optimize for Q2 so that the rest of the year is good for you. You don't wanna start it off weak and then basically waste half of your year and then have to play catch up for the rest of the year. Q1, foundational period. You build on those foundations. Q2 is now when you actually start to build upon. At the beginning of March, I was coming to a friend just completely feeling scatterbrained. Everything that I was doing wasn't working. If you're an entrepreneur, you've probably felt the shift over the last 5-6 months that things have just changed. Things are no longer, old things that used to work are no longer working. Things are not as easy or as simple as they used to be. And I just came to him, I was like, dude, like I straight up have no clue what the hell to do. Like I've tried everything, nothing's working. I'm just feeling completely lost. And on that call, my friend was like, I want you for the next week to take the week off of any sort of inputs. Like, I just want you to sit with yourself and God. So I took that advice. For the next week, I cut out all YouTube videos, cut out all podcasts. I stopped reading any books except the Bible. And even in my spare time, I wasn't just scrolling through my phone or looking at these different things. I was just sitting with my own thoughts. And I would pray, I would go on walks, I would read the Bible. After that week, or during that week, I should say, I started getting different visions and so much more clarity on what exactly it was that I was supposed to do, what it is that I wanted to do. By the end of that week, that resulted in me knowing exactly what steps to take. And things just started to compound like Lego blocks. I was starting at the foundation. Now that I was aware of where I was at and what I wanted to do and what I had to do, that's when I was able to now build upon it because now I knew what I needed. not what someone else was telling me to do, but what I needed for myself. Because the reality of the situation is, if you want to build a big business, you're not going to be able to build it by always being plugged into all the gurus online. Like, the whole point of building a big business to being a best of one means that you're injecting your own personality, injecting parts about you that nobody else can replicate. If you're constantly plugging into all these gurus, you're just going to be a carbon copy of these gurus. Nothing about you is going to be original, nothing about you is going to be unique. And instead of speaking to a core audience, you're going to be speaking to basically nobody, because you're trying to attract everybody. So this is why you create space. This is why you create solitude. All the greatest thinkers in the world have done this. There's Steve Jobs, that would take his walking meetings. Benjamin Franklin, who would just also go on hour-long walks, multiple hours. Albert Einstein did the same thing. Teddy Roosevelt would go out to the Wild West to escape the chaos of what was happening back home. All these great thinkers would create space, solitude, and silence so that all the information could just percolate and settle in their mind. And that's what made them great. Not because they're constantly plugging in. Yes, they had mentors. Yes, they had people to look up to, but they weren't spending every waking hour of their day listening to podcasts, reading books. They just went out and did the work. So that's step number one, is you want to create space so you can first of all create clarity on what to do next. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck in chaos trying to do everything all at once and nothing's going to work. So that's step number one. Step number two goes a little bit against what I just said in step number one, but that's creating an inspiration roster. What an inspiration roster is, it's compiling a list of thinkers and people that you admire that you want to emulate. So maybe it's, again, Steve Jobs, maybe it's Benjamin Franklin, Teddy Roosevelt, maybe it's Albert Einstein, maybe it's Da Vinci. Create a list of all these people that you admire and start to process, start to research into them, and start to research how they thought, how they made decisions, how they actually went through the challenges that they went through. Because these people have gone through all the same problems that you're currently going through right now. None of our problems are ever unique. And that is kind of a crazy revelation that I had pretty recently, is that it doesn't matter what you've gone through, somebody else has already gone through it. And the best part is, with all the media that we have, is you can find resources on that. So after you take this week-long break and just create separation and actually understand like what it is that you need, and you get tapped back into your conversation with God or your conversation with yourself, that's when you start to really analyze and start to figure out, who can I start to model? Because there's nothing more liberating, nothing more hope-inducing than finding a mentor or finding a person you look up to, seeing the challenges they've gone through, realizing those challenges are the exact same challenges as you, but then they've made it past them, that they saw the light at the end of the tunnel, which by extension gives you that same light at the end of the tunnel. Because if they made it through, you can make it through, because now you have a point of reference on how they made decisions during that season. You have a point of reference on how they thought during that season. So this is why you create an inspiration roster, because what you have to understand is that the mind is a lot more motivated by what's going to happen in the future than what's in the past. If you're constantly future focused and you're using these people as a backbone on how your future is going to look like, how you're going to operate as your best self, that's when you're going to operate at the highest level, instead of if you're constantly looking backwards. And again, if you do research on any of these great thinkers, the only time they look backwards is when they've reflected on what they've done to learn lessons, but they've never dwelt on the past. They've never beat themselves up for it. I mean, sure, they have, because they're humans, but they've never just dwelt on it long term. They've always used it to learn lessons so that they could become wiser, so they could become better people in the future. That's the same case for you. So you create space, you create clarity, you create solitude and silence so that you tap back into your own intuition and into God. Then you create an inspiration board of who do you want to be like? Who do you want to emulate? How do you want to think? How do you want to make decisions? How do you want to operate day to day? Give yourself a point of reference so you can now operate just like those people that you make a list of. And over time, you're going to create a new identity. You're going to create new habits. You're going to create new beliefs that then change your reality completely. And then the last level of this is getting focused on your 20%. Because when you're in chaos, when things are kind of crumbling, when you're struggling, you feel like you're losing control of everything. And as we humans, our natural tendency is to try and corral everything around us and to take back control, which means that you're going to be doing things that do not help you whatsoever. They actually take time, energy, and bandwidth away from you from focusing on the most important parts. So in order to do this, create a spreadsheet. Column 1 is going to be the date. Column 2 is going to be how much time you spent on a task. Column 3 is going to be the task itself. And then column 4, you're going to have a dollar amount. So single dollar to $4 signs. Single dollar to $2 signs means that it could be outsourced to basically anybody without any sort of training or very little training. $3 signs, it's someone that typically needs a little bit more specialization and skill. And then $4 signs is something that nobody else can do apart from you. Along with each row of the spreadsheet, what you're gonna do is also highlight the task. Red, if it takes away energy, yellow, if it doesn't add energy or take away from it, and then green if it adds energy. After a while, after 2 weeks of doing this, every 15-minute increments, you're gonna start to realize what do you hate, what you love, and you're gonna start to realize where you're wasting a lot of time. Once you get clear on everything, that's when you wanna start automating, delegating, or eliminating tasks. So you do those 3 things based on tasks that are highlighted in yellow or red, or based on tasks that have $1 sign or $2 signs. That's what you wanna focus on, because then that removes basically 80% of the things that are actually slowing you down rather than speeding you up. Like I said at the beginning, if you're going through a season of correction, a season of repositioning, you're not going to get out of the season by adding more things to it. It's through subtraction. And when you focus on the 20%, more time, energy, and balance goes to those things, which can create a compounding effect that quantum leaps you forward rather than being slowed down by the 80%. It's like going on a hike and completely overpacking, like packing multiple suitcases full of stuff, even though you're just going on a 2-day hike. Like really at that point, you just maybe need a backpack that's like 30 pounds, 40 pounds, instead of taking a suitcase that's like 60 pounds. Like the only way you're gonna finish the hike is if you get rid of the suitcase, if you take stuff away and just put it in a smaller backpack. So it's the same thing. Get rid of the baggage that is holding you back, and then get clear on exactly what you need to do. So step number 1, create space and silence and solitude. Then you'll get tapped back into your intuition and with God. You'll know exactly what you need to do, when you need to do it, and you'll feel a lot more peace, a lot more calm, because you're no longer tapped in and plugged into the chaos, but you're plugged into yourself. Step number 2, create an inspiration roster. Create a list of people that you admire, that you wanna act like, think like, and make decisions like, and just use them as a point of reference to create the best version of yourself. And then step number 3, get clear on the 20%. Get clear on the things that are gonna create 10x leaps instead of the 2x tasks that are just slowing you down from creating any sort of progress. These are the 3 things that are gonna help you get past the season, because there are 3 tests that you're gonna have to go through during the seasons. Test number 1 is actually committing. Are you committed enough to step into the fire? Most people, this is a very difficult decision. Most people say no, and that's fine. But if you say yes, be prepared for the second test, which is, do you really want this? As soon as you commit, you're gonna step in the fire, and that's when you're gonna really start to feel the heat. And that's when you're gonna be faced with a decision. Do I want this bad enough to walk through the fire? Again, some people might say no and back out. I encourage you to start thinking in the fact that as soon as you step in, you're already in it. You're gonna be closer to the end than you are closer to the beginning. You're just in this messy middle where it's easier for you to kind of step back into the familiarity rather than keep moving forward into the unfamiliar. And then as soon as you step out of the fire, that's when test number 3 comes. And that's, do you have enough energy to maintain the fruit that you just got from the season? In other words, do you have the capacity to just keep going? Because yes, the season was exhausting, but now that you have the wisdom, now that you have the fruit from it, do you have the energy to just keep going? Again, some people say no, and that's totally fine. Sometimes that just requires rest. If you say yes, then that's when you just keep moving forward, and that's when quantum leaps and growth happens. But keep in mind, these 3 tests show up every single time. The way you move through these tests are through these 3 steps. Create space, silence, and solitude. Get clear on your inspiration roster, and then get clear on the 20%. So if this was helpful, let me know in the comments. If you have questions, let me know in the comments. I don't know exactly who this is for. I was just kind of pulled to make this video. And I know that there's someone out there that probably needs to hear these things, that doesn't just want like some cliche advice that literally everybody else shares, but wants something different that's actually grounded in reality, that's actually grounded in reductionism rather than addition. So if that's you, just let me know or reach out to me on social media. I'm always more than happy to chat and, help whoever it is to pull through these seasons, because the name of the game in entrepreneurship is staying power. It's not about becoming the best. It's not about becoming or making the most money. It's not about status. It's just staying in the game, because most people are eventually just going to drop out. They're just not going to be able to maintain it. But if you stay long enough, that's when you're going to be able to bear the fruit. And that's when you're going to be basically the last man standing out of everyone that's joined along with you. And as a result, you're going to feel the blessings of everything that comes on the back end of that. So if this was helpful, let me know. See you in the next one.